Benito.
Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Painted Lady Butterfly. How many of you have ever heard of the name Painted Lady Butterfly? Raise your hand if you have. Yeah? Anyone else? Well, Painted Lady Butterfly resembles a monarch. Guy, can you help me out here? Not too long ago, I was working as a mentor tutor for the 21st Century Mentoring Tutoring Program for 5th and 6th graders. And one of the main things that the site coordinator wanted us to do was to raise butterflies, namely the Painted Lady Butterfly. And there were about maybe 25 or 27 students in the class, and they shipped from California a Painted Lady Butterfly kit. What we had to do with that kit was to prepare it so that we can raise butterflies. Anyhow, for some reason when the kit came, I just took responsibility. For some reason I became attracted. How were we going to do this? And of course the kids, they wouldn't have been able to do it themselves. So I got the instructions from my supervisor and I read them. And to make a long story short, what I had to do is I had to first read the instructions, get the food together, and while I was making the food, it was this bag of powder. It looked like normal baking powder. And it was kind of brownish. And what I had to do was to mix that with a certain amount of water. You know, like in the chemistry class, you need this percentage of this and this percentage of that. Anyhow, I followed everything to a T, but then someone told me, well, it doesn't look right. And I'm like, well, I followed the instructions, I'm just going to stick to it. And to make a long story short, I had to put the food in these little cups. Since there were 27 students, I had to put each of that food in 27 small cups. And in the kit came a jar with about 30 larvae. And basically a larvae was a very tiny caterpillar that just hatched from an egg. The life cycle of a Painted Lady Butterfly begins with an egg first. Okay. We didn't get the egg, we got the larvae. They were already hatched from the egg. So it's the egg, and then we had the larvae. The egg, and then it changes into a larvae, which is basically a caterpillar. And from the caterpillar, it creates a chrysalis or cocoon. And in that cocoon, that's where it metamorphosizes into a butterfly. And we went through the whole process of doing that. We put all the larvae in the little cups with the students. Our goal was to teach the students the life cycle of the butterfly. And each student had to, each day, write in their journal what was happening with the larvae, its progression. And one of the amazing things about the larvae, when they changed into when they became a caterpillar, like really quickly, so they got really big. And they wouldn't move around, and some of the students thought that they were dead. But I'm like, just be patient, they're not dead. And when from egg to a larva or larva is basically a caterpillar, and then the caterpillar becomes a chrysalis. And what it does is it goes up to the top of the cap, and it hangs itself upside down and it becomes a chrysalis, which is a cocoon. The egg is 3 to 5 days, the larva is 5 to 10 days, and then the caterpillar becomes a chrysalis, and the chrysalis lasts for about 7 to 10 days. And after the 10th day, it starts emerging from its cocoon. And the students saw this a week before the program ended. It was only a month-long program. They started emerging from their chrysalides. And you can actually see the butterflies. And that was good because the students actually saw the life cycle from the larva to the pupa or the chrysalis and into an adult butterfly. Okay? And we only had one more week left. And the very last day, not all of the chrysalides hatched. And for some reason I was thinking, well, what are we going to do now? I could have easily given because we put them in a cage after they became crystallized. We had to take them to the top of the cage, and from there they would emerge as butterflies. So there was like maybe 10 butterflies flying around, and I didn't want to leave them there because, first of all, I had called to the lab and we couldn't release the butterflies to the environment. And I asked him, well, what do I do with them? He said, well, you can take them home and take care of them till their lifespan, which is 2 to 4 weeks. So I took home with me that day, I took home the cage with approximately maybe 25 butterflies. Okay? And I have these butterflies at home. And that's the last thing I ever thought in my mind, that I would be raising butterflies, that I had to take care of butterflies. Okay? And therefore I had to make food for them. And what I have here is a live painted lady butterfly. And this is one of the butterflies that you can look at it later on, but I'm just showing you basically there's a live painted lady butterfly. And right here, basically what that is a gauze. And what it is a gauze that I put in sugar water because that's what you're supposed to feed them. And they have a proboscis where when they're hungry, they'll jump on the gauze and they'll suck the food out. Okay. And right now, at this point at home, I have 16 butterflies, including this one. This one is 16. 9 of them have already died because the lifespan is ending. It's reaching the 4th week almost. I never thought that I would have to, or ever thought of even keeping a watch or raising butterflies. But for some reason I felt like I wanted to take the responsibility since I created the food and I did everything, and I didn't want to leave them there. Of course I wasn't able to release them, but I've been like worried about them. And I never thought that I would ever be doing something like this. I don't even want to own a dog or a cat because, well, I don't even have time for that. But the butterfly, I've seemed to really be interested in caring about them. And actually, when the first one died, I was kind of sad. Anyhow, it's been a great experience for me to learn about a butterfly, but it was also a nice experience to actually get it together and the whole kit and raise them so that the kids could learn. And it was a new thing for me. And at this point, I have, like I said, 16 left, and I'm making food for them, and I'm keeping an eye on them. And I think I was out at a show one day. My buddy goes, "Hey, let's go hang out." I'm like, I don't want to hang out. I got to go home and take care of these butterflies. Really, that's how much I've become attached to them. And finally, you never know something like this that I've done. I didn't know that I would actually be really into it. And it's kind of nice. At first, I didn't want to grab the butterflies, and I'm like, I don't think that it's going to happen. But it's nice to actually have this butterfly here who's been on this journey with me all the way from Indiana. I mean, eventually I can't let it go. I'm going to have to leave it in a cage and it's going to die a natural life. But it was nice to bring it here and to talk about it and show you. And if you ever need to raise butterflies, let me know and I'll help you out. Those nice.